This weekend post, a quick tutorial on doing a sky replacement. Hey everybody, I'm Scott Davenport and welcome to In Post. Continuing with this week's theme about boring skies and what can we do with them. We're going to do a sky replacement here using On1 layers. Doesn't really matter what layering product you're using. I use On1. Most of you people know that already. I like the masking tools there. Photoshop, Mac Fun's got layering in their products. GIMP, Affinity, doesn't matter. The concepts are the same here. So let's dive in. I've got this photo here in On1 layers. I've done some basic stylization of it. Of course, this area of sky is very boring. It was a very blue sky morning out in Death Valley. And I've even got dust spots here I didn't bother to clean up because I knew I was going to do something about this little patch of blue sky. Now, the first thing we need to do is decide what kind of sky we're going to use. Let me go into On1 Extras backgrounds. And they have some skies that come with the package. Now, choosing a sky to match your photo is really the first decision you need to make. For example, it would not make sense at all for me to choose the Skies 03. It's a great looking sky, but it doesn't match my scene in the least. There's no orange cast of light throughout everything else in the photo. And that becomes, it would look unnatural if I masked everything together like that. So I'm going to look more for some of these, more blue skies, but some interesting clouds. And something relatively subtle. Actually, I kind of like this one here, Skies 14. I'm going to double click on that, add it as a layer, and it's just going to drop it on the scene there. And I don't need this panel anymore, so let's hide that. All right, so here's our sky, and I can do whatever I want with this as far as shaping it and so forth. And I'm actually going to squash it down a little bit and kind of shove it over in this corner here, maybe actually flip it so that I get some of this cloud action happening about here. So for a quick comparison, I can lower the opacity to see about where is that sky sitting in there. And maybe something like about that, just to get this sky in here to provide some level of interest in this area of the photo. All right, so I'm going to bring that back up here and click apply. So I've got this sky here. Now, right now, this looks, terrible. But the reason I'm keeping it on the front of the image right now is before I really get into doing the masking, I need to pay attention to one other aspect of this photo, which is reflections. I've got this pool of water here. This is the permanent amount of water that's always around in Badwater Basin. And I need to make sure that I reflect this set of clouds in this background here. So let's get everything set up there. So I have this cloud's kind of sitting here. I'm going to squash this up just a little bit more and maybe raise it up here. And so what I'm doing is I'm aligning the bottom of my layer about with the horizon. I'm losing some of my cool clouds there. So let's bring that back in right around there. Okay, apply that change. And now I will duplicate this layer. Okay. Now I still have my transform tool set. First, I'm going to flip the layer horizontally, and then I move it down here. So now I have not horizontally, vertically. I have a vertically flipped version of my layer, and now I can kind of line it up so that I have this mirror image. This doesn't have to be perfect because this part will be hidden mask-wise, and I actually tend to like to stretch my reflected sky just a little bit to give it that little bit of distortion. So that it's not exactly the same on the top as it is on the bottom. So that's looking pretty cool. I'm going to apply that. Bring the opacity back up to 100% on that layer. Opacity back up to 100%. You can see I didn't get an exact alignment with both layers. There's a little space in here. And that's all right. Not too worried about that. Now, bring my photo, drag it up to the top of the stack. Now's here where we begin doing our masking. And so we just want to mask away these big empty blue areas. So I'll grab a quick mask, swipe through there, and it's going to remove that and reveal what's underneath. Okay, and need a little bit of work here. We'll get the refine brush, drag it along the edge of that mask and let it refine where everything is. Now this little Hint of blue, that is a problem for sure. This is a great job for the chisel tool. And I'll set the amount really, really low. And we're going to remove more of this blue. And so I'm just going to run this chisel along the edge of that. Second time, third time. So I could have gone a little bit higher with my amount. But that's just going to like knock a few pixels off the edge there and smooth out that mask. So that's fundamentally it for the top part. Now for the bottom, I think I'm going to just use the brush, and I'll start with a lower opacity, halfway maybe, and I will use the perfect brush so that I can get some edge detection in these areas. And so I'm going to start to reveal the reflections. And the reason I'm only doing half strength is I will still see the water that's here and see some of these salt crystals and so forth. But let's undo that, undo. Let's do a better sweep on that, kind of wiggle through there. But I do want to make sure I'm getting more of that blue of the sky and certainly some of those cloud patches. Now, so that is fundamentally it. Maybe, let's see if I can pick up anything over here. Not too much. That's fundamentally it. If I were to duplicate our top layer and reset the mask, we can see a before and after. So that's before the masking, and that's after. Very quick, very simple to mask in that sky. I would spend a little more time here fine-tuning that mask and get everything smooth. But these are the fundamentals. Really choosing the right sky and also paying attention to any reflective surfaces like water or anything else that you have to make sure you work into your photo. So the tip of the week is, if you need to, replace a boring sky with something more interesting. I think a key element of that is selecting an appropriate sky to match your scene. And don't pick some fiery sunset if you were shooting on a blue sky day. Your overall photo is going to have a bluish cast to it. And yeah, you can start playing with color casts and removing them and so forth. It could be an interesting experiment. It is going to make your job more difficult. If you're just looking to add a little visual interest, mask it away, or even blend in a set of clouds that are similar to conditions you were shooting in. And that wraps it up for this week in post. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a comment, send me a question, let me know that you're getting some value out of this. Anything to just let me know there's someone on the other side of this camera that's watching these and enjoying them. And until next time, my name's Scott Davenport. Happy shooting.